You heard it. That sound. A sudden, hollow thud, sharp and short, coming from somewhere near your window. And for a moment, you froze. Maybe you were sitting at your kitchen table with your morning coffee. Maybe you were reading in the next room. But that sound stopped you, because somewhere deep in your chest you already knew what it meant. You walked to the window, and there it was. A small bird lying on the ground below the glass, sometimes still, sometimes twitching, sometimes just gone, like it was never there at all. If that has ever happened to you, I want you to stay right here, because what I'm about to tell you is something most people never find out. Not because the information is hidden, but because nobody ever explains it the way it actually needs to be explained. This is not a simple story about birds bumping into glass. This is a story about an invisible world, one that exists right outside your window, and why millions of birds are disappearing because of something sitting quietly in your own backyard. Before we go any further, if you're new here, welcome to the Backyard Oracle. If the birds in your yard matter to you, hit that subscribe button right now. Because every week we go deeper than the surface. We go into the world your birds actually live in. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Now, let's talk about what really happened the moment that bird hit your window. Here is the first thing you need to understand. That bird was not confused. That bird was not sick. That bird did not make a mistake. That bird was doing exactly what its instincts told it to do. And those instincts have kept birds alive for over 150 million years. The problem is not the bird. The problem is the glass. You see, birds do not see windows the way you and I do. When you look at a window, your brain immediately registers it as a solid barrier. You know it is there. You learned it. You remember it. But birds have no frame of reference for glass at all. Glass is a completely human invention. It has only existed for a few thousand years. A single blink in the timeline of bird evolution. To a bird flying past your home, your window does not look like a wall. It looks like open sky. It looks like a gap between trees. It looks like freedom, because your window is reflecting the world around it, the clouds, the branches, the open blue above, and a bird in flight sees that reflection and believes completely, with every instinct it possesses, that it is looking at a safe, open path. And then it flies directly into it at full speed. This is called a fatal reflection. And it is happening at a scale that most people find almost impossible to believe. But here's where this story gets heavier. Because the thud you heard, that single moment, that was not an isolated accident. That was part of something much larger, something that has been quietly unfolding outside your window for decades. Scientists estimate that between 600 million and 1 billion birds die every single year in the United States alone from window collisions, not from predators, not from storms, not from habitat loss, from glass, from windows just like yours, just like mine. That number is so large it almost stops making sense. 600 million birds every year. And here's the part that will stay with you. Most of those collisions happen not at skyscrapers, not at office towers or airport terminals. They happen at residential homes, at houses exactly like yours, at the same windows where you hang your feeders, at the same glass where you watch your birds every morning with your coffee going warm in your hands. The window that frames the world you love is the same window that has been quietly taking it away. I know that is hard to hear, and I want you to stay with me, because this story does not end there. It gets more complicated, and then it gets something else. It gets fixable. But first, you need to understand something about how your bird actually experienced that moment. Close your eyes for a moment, not literally, you are watching, but imagine this. You are flying, not high above the clouds, but low, skimming just above the treetops at 30 miles an hour. The world around you is enormous and alive. You can see ultraviolet light that human eyes cannot detect. You can feel the magnetic pull of the earth beneath you like a quiet compass buried in your chest. Every leaf, every branch, every shadow registers in your mind in a fraction of a second. You are not small. You are not fragile. You are one of the most perfectly engineered creatures that has ever lived on this planet. And then you see it. Open sky ahead. trees reflected in a smooth blue surface. Your instincts say, fly through, and so you do. That is the last thing you experience. This is the world your birds live in. And this is why that thud carries so much more weight than it seems. Birds do not experience the world the way we do. Their vision is extraordinary in ways that help them survive almost everything nature throws at them. Predators, weather, migration, competition for food. But glass is the one thing their vision cannot protect them from. Because glass doesn't just block, it lies. It shows them a world that isn't there, a sky that isn't open, a forest that has no trees. And your feeders, the ones you put up with love, the ones you fill every week, can actually make this worse. Here is something that breaks people's hearts when they first learn it. When you place a bird feeder close to a window, you are not just feeding birds, you are drawing them in closer and closer to the most dangerous surface in your yard. A bird that has just eaten is a bird that is alert, energized, and moving fast. And when something startles it, a shadow, a noise, another bird, it launches into flight instantly. No hesitation, no time to think, it simply goes. And the window is right there. That is not your fault. You did not know. Almost nobody does, but now you do. I want to tell you about a woman named Margaret. She was 71 years old. She had lived in the same house in rural Pennsylvania for 43 years, and for almost all of those years she had a cardinal at her feeder. Not always the same one, of course, but always a cardinal. Bright red against the snow in January. She had photographs going back to 1987. She told me once that watching the cardinal every morning was the first thing she did, before she made her coffee, before she checked on anything else. She would walk to the window, and it would be there. One morning, she heard the thud. She knew immediately. She found him at the base of the window, a male cardinal, his red feathers impossibly vivid against the winter ground. He was alive when she reached him. She sat with him for almost an hour, kept him warm in her cupped hands, talked to him quietly. He did not survive. She wrote to us about it, and the line that stayed with me, the line I have not forgotten, was this: I didn't know my window was dangerous. I only ever thought of it as the place where I watched him. That is the truth of this story. We build our lives around these small, beautiful moments. The flash of red at the feeder, the chickadee on the edge of the bird bath, the morning song that tells you the world is still okay. And we do not realize, because nobody tells us, that the very things we put in place to welcome birds into our world can become the things that take them from it. The glass we look through, the reflections we never think about, the placement we chose out of love. This is not a story about careless people. This is a story about invisible consequences. And here is the part that matters most now. Because knowing this, really knowing it, changes everything. In the final part of this story, I am going to show you what you can actually do. Simple, affordable, immediate things that can make your home safe for every bird that visits you. Let's talk about what you can do right now, today. Because the single most powerful thing about understanding a problem like this is that the solutions are real, they are simple, and they are completely within your reach. The first thing you need to know: distance matters more than almost anything else. If you have a bird feeder placed within 10 feet of a window, move it. Either bring it within 3 feet of the glass, close enough that a startled bird cannot build up dangerous speed before impact, or move it more than 30 feet away, far enough that birds have time and space to redirect their flight path if something spooks them. That single change alone can dramatically reduce collisions at your home. The second thing: break the reflection. Your window looks like open sky to a bird because the glass is smooth, clean, and mirrors the world around it. The solution is to interrupt that reflection with something the bird's eye can register as a solid object. You can apply window collision tape, strips of tape placed on the outside of the glass in a grid pattern, roughly 2 inches apart. You can use tempera paint or soap to draw patterns on the outside surface. You can hang wind chimes, outdoor fabric, or cord in front of the glass to break the reflective surface. There are also excellent window films designed specifically for this, visible to birds but nearly invisible to the human eye from inside. The key is always the outside of the glass. Anything on the inside does very little. Birds are responding to the reflection, and the reflection lives on the exterior surface. The third thing, think about your lights at night. This part surprises people, because most window collisions happen during the day, but a different and devastating kind of window danger happens after dark. During spring and fall migration, billions of birds travel at night. They navigate by stars, by magnetic fields, by ancient systems built over millions of years of evolution. Artificial light breaks those systems. Lit windows at night pull migrating birds off course, draw them into urban areas, and send them spiraling into glass they cannot see in the darkness. Turning off unnecessary interior lights during peak migration, roughly April through May and August through October, can save thousands of birds in your region alone. Many cities now run lights-out programs for exactly this reason. You can participate from your own home simply by dimming or turning off lights that face the sky during those months. The fourth thing, and the one I saved for last, tell someone. This is the part that matters beyond your own yard. Because the reason this problem has continued for so long, the reason billions of birds have been lost, is not that people don't care. It is that people don't know. You know now. And the person sitting next to you, the neighbor with the feeder across the street, the friend who texts you photos of the robin nesting in her rose bush, they might not know yet, but they would want to. Sharing this is not a small thing. It is a genuinely significant act. Because bird populations across North America are declining at a rate that researchers describe as a crisis. 3 billion birds lost since 1970. A third of all bird species in measurable decline. Your window is one piece of that, and your awareness is another piece of the solution. Now, here is where I want to leave you. There is a reason you felt something when you heard that thud. There is a reason you walked to the window. There is a reason you remembered it, maybe years later, when you heard this story. That response is not trivial. It is not sentimental weakness. It is something real and important. You are paying attention to a living world that most people have learned to ignore. That cardinal who visited Margaret for 40 years, he was not just a bird at a feeder. He was a moment of stillness in a loud life. A reminder that the world outside the glass is breathing and watching and moving, whether we notice or not. The window between you and that world can be made safer. It can be made kinder. And now, because you know, it will be. Welcome to the Backyard Oracle. If this moved you, leave a comment below and subscribe. There is so much more waiting for you here.